All right, welcome back to part number 3, CSIS 2200, chapter number 12. We're going to carry on with the different phases of decision making. Now, this fellow called Herbert Simon, he came up with this model of how to define or look at decision making and break it down into different components, and came up with 3+1 phases. So let's go through those phases. So the first phase is what they refer to as an intelligence phase for making decisions. So the intelligence of collecting information, we'll go through this in detail. Then there's the design phase for making the decision. And finally, which choice are you going to make for the decision? You usually have multiple choices. Now the +1 is also the implementation of the decision, but sometimes decisions aren't made, so there may not be an implementation to that. So let's break these down a little further. Let's start off with the intelligence phase. So the intelligence phase is when decision makers can identify clearly a problem or an opportunity within their organization. So they can, the second kind of component is using data analysis, business intelligence, data from a variety of sources, processing that into some meaningful information. So this is actually kind of two parts here. The first one is using data analysis and then processing into meaningful information. So there is 3 technical parts, sort of sub-parts to the intelligence phase. The first part of the intelligence phase is to determine the problem or opportunity, which we just mentioned up here. So knowing clearly what that is. And then the second sub-phase to this intelligent phase is to collect and organize the data. Now that data can be internal, external, all the data that you can collect that's relevant to the problem or the opportunity you want to incorporate into the decision, into the intelligence phase. And then finally, the analysis and the visualization of the data into information. So this is very common nowadays. In fact, there are new areas within many disciplines that are focusing on specialities of business intelligence and visualization of data. So you'll see one of the most common of these is what they refer to as known performance indicators, or KPI. That's an acronym you guys have to know, because people will throw that term around a lot. What's the KPIs for this problem? What's the KPIs for the decision we're going to make? So KPIs can be generated by managing information systems. I'll give you an example coming up here. So KPIs can help make an intelligent decision by visualizing or basically telling a story with the data. So you might have seen graphs like this. This is just a very rough, crude concept of a known performance indicator charts, where they have some kind of matrix or comparison. This might be like a student analysis of where a group of students lie in, in a grade, and then the this indicator might be some kind of indicator of performance based on classroom performance. So for example, the student could have got 55 and they've attended most of their classes. This one got 63 but didn't attend as much. So, and then from here we could ask other questions. Is there a correlation between the two data? And is that meaningful for the problem that we're trying to answer? This is a donut chart, which shows you sort of, it's like a pie chart, very similar to a pie chart or a line chart, a bar chart. This is a thermometer, or like a continuum, and it's more for looks. And what the reason that they visualize the data like this is so when people look at it, they don't have to just look at raw numbers. When you look at raw numbers, you have to measure that in your mind somehow. So visualization with charts is a great way of telling a story. And this could be, let's say, a classroom statistics. Here's your students. Here's the breakdown between, how many A's or B's or C's or D's did the students get. This could be a comparison chart between 2 different assignments. This could be a class average, for example. This could be individual assignments over time, possibly. So what this does is it tells a story. It paints a picture. And based on the picture and the story, it can help decision makers answer those problems. Now, giving a practical example of this. So as I've mentioned, I'm in charge of a managing information system for Douglas College on curriculum development. So what I've done is I've put together an interactive KPI for faculty and stakeholders to interact with. So what you're looking at here is a summary of all of the programs within the faculties at Douglas College. So we have the School of Business Administration, we have Health Sciences, we have Science and Tech. So you can see here that this is the number of courses by faculty. And over here we have the number of programs by faculty. So if you look right away, it paints a very clear picture. If I was to give all this data to management, say, okay, there's the data, and you can figure it out, they're going to just scratch their head. They're not going to know what to do. But by putting the data and visualizing the data, you can tell a story. You can say, wow, you can see clearly that the School for Business Administration is the dominant faculty with that Douglas College. In fact, if you add all of these up, it's almost equal to the School of Business at Douglas College. And then you can get down, and if you want to look at granular data, you've got access to granular data. And if you want to query it, you can. You can also interact with it and say, well, I want to know what the data was in 2019, for example. And it will give you, all the faculties that had by department of that particular year of courses that have changed since then. So I hope that gives you a better idea about how a practical management information system can help decision makers. In fact, the result of that, just to give you to kind of carry that on a little bit further, is, okay, I'm going to erase all of those and put it back. The decision was where to spend funding and for what students. Well, the majority of the students are heavily balanced in one department. So funding as a decision, how much should we fund it? That's a decision that needs to be made based on this managing information system with these known performance indicators organized in this way to help make that decision. Without this, management would have a more difficult time and could make different decisions based on this because they may misinterpret the data or the numbers because it's so complicated when we get into all this stuff. All right, so I hope that gives you a kind of a clear understanding of how there's different phases, at least in the initial intelligent phase, I should say, intelligent phase, is collecting all that data. And there's 3 phases in there: determining the problem, what is the problem? Collecting and organizing the data. I just gave you a practical example of that. And then analyzing and visualizing the data into information. I think I've explained that as well. All right, let's move on to the next phase. All right, the next phase is the design phase. So we're going to look at alternative criteria for helping us make those decisions. So in designing a criteria, we want to look at designing a criteria to help us make a decision. So the criteria should be goal and objectives that we want to achieve. What are our goals? What are our objectives that we're trying to achieve with this decision? Are we trying to become more profitable? Are we trying to have more satisfaction? Are we trying to get more learning outcomes? What is the actual goal or the objective? So for example, a company could have decreasing sales. And if they've got decreasing sales, their objective is, of course, to increase. They want to build and list criteria to help them increase sales. So in helping decisions, we can have what they call it in a design phase is design criteria or questions, essentially designing questions to help increase sales. In this case, so should we assign more salespeople to the target market? That's a decision we need to answer. So we're gonna build the criteria, and then we're gonna use then we're gonna carry that out. So how can we retain or motivate our current salespeople? There's a good question, and you guys could probably come up with some ideas. What would retain salespeople? Would it be a higher commission? Would it be more flexibility? Would it be expanding their territory? Whatever it happens to be. There's lots of decisions that could be made to help achieve that goal or that objective. Should we reassign the current salespeople to different areas? Sometimes salespeople become stagnant in an area, or they become too familiar with their their customers, which could be actually a really good thing, but then sometimes it can be a bad thing. So they have to look at the data. So during the intelligence phase, we can collect some of that information to help us see, well, maybe certain salespeople and certain customers aren't getting along. So sometimes that happens. Sometimes salespeople, upset their customers and therefore they won't buy it, but they're within the same region. So they might have to mix it up a bit. So what they're doing here in the design phase is they're asking questions to help try to answer questions to achieve their goals or the objectives. And they do this in the design phase. So in the design phase, you're designing questions to achieve your goals, is basically how it works. All right, let's move on to the choice phase. All right, the choice phase is exactly what it says. You have a choice. When you have the opportunity of making a decision, more than not, you have a choice. Sometimes you have no choice. You've heard that expression, I have no choice, I have to do, plan A. There is no other option. But sometimes you've got plan A, plan B, plan C, or decision A, B, and C. So in that case, you've got a choice to make. Once you've gone through the intellectual phase, you've gone through the designing question phase, now you have to make a choice. So the choice is from a list of alternative options that you might have. You want to, of course, select the best and most effective course of action that was going to profit or benefit you in making that decision. You want to make the best choice. Sometimes you can have choices and they're multiple choices that are good, but some might be a little bit better, or they might be a win-win type of situation, or it might be a longer term. It really depends on the goal of the company and what they're trying to achieve, right? So you want to analyze each alternative very carefully. This is sometimes sat down and say, okay, if we go with plan A, here's all the pros, here's all the cons. You have a lot of discussion. You kind of weigh it out and you get a sense of which one is the best. So you want to analyze each alternative and its relationship to the criteria or the goals and the objectives to determine whether it's feasible or not. And we can do this using what they call a decision support system. Now, a decision support system, or DSS, I call these sometimes business support systems, but decision actually is good too, because that's what we're talking about here. We have to make a decision, and we use a managing information system to help us achieve that. So most of these systems that you guys are using at some capacity will be used as a decision support system. So it helps sort through possible options, solutions to choose the best one for the organization. Now, how good are you at using this management information system, the decision support system? How good are you at implementing questions? How good are you at extracting data? How good are you at processing the data to get the right information? So the better you are at these MIS systems, the more valuable you're going to be for an organization. Hence, job security, more money, moving up the corporate ladder, so to speak. So these systems really include tools and calculations and algorithms, cost-benefit ratio, for example, return on investment calculations. So like I said before, in my course I used to run, and unfortunately it's no longer offered right now. It's called CSIS 3190, and it was all about building business support systems to help make decisions. And we used Excel and Power BI for business information technologies. These systems that we would build we would incorporate a return on our investment. We would calculate our break-even analysis and other financial calculations, all of which help management make decisions. So that pretty much ends off the choosing which best alternative, but sometimes a decision is not reached, hence the little superscript here, implementing the phase. So there is a complete phase of implementing a decision, but it's really separate. That's why there's that line here. These three have to do with looking at making the decision, and the last one is just implementing it. So it's slightly different. Now, this is again the course, and I had this in a previous slide, so that's why I'm mentioning it. This was the course CSIS 3190, Business Support Systems with Excel. So the whole point of this course was to create a decision support system to help management. Now, this was a post PDB, post bachelor diploma course, and it was part of our data analytics course. I'm hoping to run this course again for the accountants, because we have a data analytics program for accountants and possibly for the marketing people as well. Project management would be highly beneficial for this as well. So in that course, we spent a lot of time looking at building and creating a system and coming up with key performance indicator questions for that course. All right, so decision support systems, I think we've talked enough about that. These things are usually interactive. So you can put variables to see how things change dynamically. The system that I showed you earlier could be considered a decision support system right here, because people can type in their own variables. They may want to have just CBA, for example, and that's just the CBA data. So it helps them make decisions with more specialized goals or objective questions that they might have. So this is a very typical example of that. If you guys want to have a look at it, you can go here. It's called cnreporting.ryan.com. I just stuck it on my own personal domain server, and you can play with it and try it out. So these systems, they do need, hardware, software, and data. These are all the fundamental components of any managing information system. There is a lot of processing, which includes a lot of mathematical calculations, statistical calculations to produce output, reports, and information. And that's essentially what all of this course has been about, is managing information systems, which comes down to using hardware, a software system, inputting data, process it using a variety of different BI type of questions, and then outputting meaningful information so you can make decisions. And we're really coming to the end of this course and the end of the whole concept of what we're talking about here. And I hope this is starting to come together for you and start to make sense. So these decision support systems, requirements that you're going to need, they should be interactive. Like the one I just showed you before, you should have this interactive opportunity. Like I say, I want just a particular department. Let's say I want just the computer studies department. That's the department. And it tells us the number of courses by the faculty, and it gives us all of the courses. There they all are here, according to at the time of this data input. We could filter out just by the year. Now, the reason it's coming up like nothing here is because this is just courses and programs that have been updated. So there's going to be a limited amount of data here. All right, so I'm going to take this out, click the eraser button there. So it's interactive, and that's a key part. They call this the dashboard. You'll see the term dashboard. This is the dashboard, meaning where you run like the dashboard of your car. It provides information about how your car is performing, the amount of gas in your tank, the temperature of your motor, etc. So these KPIs also have a dashboard. So incorporates the human elements as well as hardware and software. The user interface and the user experience are two key components, and we have courses based on this. So this is the user interface. Usually these are graphical UIs, and they hopefully have a good user experience. Hopefully the users come back and say, I understand what that means. I understand this. I understand what all of this is. Maybe they didn't understand they can click on these and get interactive, dynamic interaction between these. But the point here is that you should try to design these so they're easy for management. Management has to use this. They're not technical people. Their brains are focused around making decisions based on the best information that they can generate. And so this is a key component that you need to implement. These decision-making systems also use internal and external data. Application program interface. It means that allowing you to bring external data to help augment your data, your information. Example of that would be bringing in something like weather data over time to influence sales of a particular product that has to do with weather. Like you're selling clothes. Clothes are very weather sensitive. So when it's hot out, people are not buying, parkas and toques and gloves. They're buying swimsuits and towels and sunscreen. So we could bring in data, external data, to help in our analysis of what products we should be selling, for example. These things include a lot of mathematical and statistical modeling. User-defined functions, UDF, user-defined functions, can be developed for these. Support decision makers at all levels. This is not just the strategic, it's also tactical and operational that are supported in these decisions as well. And emphasizes on semi-structured decision making. So a decision support system, because there's a lot of data analysis, this would be a good quiz question, is what type of decision structure is a business support system or decision support system actually? It is a semi-structured decision-making tool. Most MIS systems, by the way, are semi-structured. They're not fixed. They have usually variable data that is being considered in helping make the decisions using the structure of MIS. Okay, so carrying on, some of the other key components of a decision support system is the database. Of course, data is massive. We've talked about data so much in this program. Our database management system is one of the key fundamental components of any large managing information system. It enables the DNS to perform data analysis. Without data, how do you have analysis? You got nothing to analyze. So without data, no analysis. That's just obvious. All right. Includes mathematical and statistical. We've talked about that. And it enables the decision support system to analyze information. Of course, that's one of its key functions. User interface components, which I talked about, the UI and the UX, allows users to access the system in a very convenient way. So I don't want to get into this too much because we've already talked about this a lot. These UIs, user interface, interacts with the decision support system, and based on the input that they happen, it may resource the data, and it may go back and generate some type of KPI model base for decision making. What are some of the most common tools out there for DSS? Excel, Power BI. You guys might have heard of Tableau. Tableau is another one. In fact, if you have a look at this screenshot here of Power BI, this is basically a dashboard of known performance indicators to help tell a story of data to management for making a decision. There we go. We're pulling it all together now. If you guys have hung in there and you're listening to this, that is, we're coming together. By the way, I'd like to also say Power BI is a relatively new tool in industry. I'd say in the last 5 years, and companies are hungry for people who understand it, how to use it, and how to ask questions, and more importantly, how to present the data in a story. And that's what you're looking at right here. I know it's just a bunch of colors and graphs, but what that does is it tells a story of how your data and how the information is evolving. Could be over time, etc. And how well are you at putting together this story with the data? And these people who are good at it get paid very well. And if you take a look on Indeed.com for jobs right now for Power BI, there's a lot of jobs out there and they're paid extremely well. So it's a great area to get into right now. Because remember, BI, business intelligence, is a step before artificial intelligence. And there's a lot of crossover between the two, by the way. So DSS includes features to support decision making, specifically like what if analysis. So what if these numbers come in? What should we do? Goal seeking. Well, we have a goal. We want to seek and find the answer. All of those can be done using Excel. Report analysis. Other capabilities of graphical analysis, forecasting, simulation, etc., as you can read here, are even exaggerated or even more amplified by Power BI. So where Excel leaves off, Power BI picks up. But Excel does have Excel actually has a programming language built into it. It's a script language. It's not, it's a scripting language. It's called VBA. It's not a compiled language. It's a scripting language. And you can write extremely advanced programs in here. In fact, another project that I'm involved with is the college scheduling system to help make decisions on when to offer courses and what decisions to make, what instructors go in which course. That complete system was built inside of Microsoft Excel. I really do sell, I do sound like I sell Excel, don't I? I think I don't stock in that company or something, but I wish I did. All right, let's move on to the roles. Now, oh, actually, you know what? It's already 25 minutes here. I'm going to pick up roles in part number 4. So I'll see you in part number 4.